Hey everybody, what's going on? So if you're new to this video or this channel, please go to the video description and check out at least the top two links that I'll leave called How to Gematria. And you'll get a better understanding of what I'm talking about, and you'll understand why I am talking about numbers and what it means and how to apply it for yourself. But I've just been doing this too long, and there's so much going on in the world that is interrelated and it is all connected. And if you understand gematria, you understand what I'm talking about. And it's synced up to themes and also synchronicity that goes on in your own life. So I just don't know how to make it simple and short and easy for somebody. But if you watch them links, you'll understand a little bit more of what I'm talking about. And I have tons of other videos over the years that are short and sweet, to the point. Possibly, I'll throw some more of them in eventually when I get the chance. But I always just see so much of a bigger picture going on with these mainstream media stories, how every single one of them is coded by the numbers, and just the synchronicity of why I even choose to click on a certain article, there's certain things that stick out to me, so I click on the article, and it seems like every time I click on an article, it's related to the article that I clicked on before, and so on. And that's what I'm going to talk about in this video. But if you've been following my channel, I've been talking about how almost everything that is going on in the media, in our scripted sports leagues, it's all connected back to what I was talking about in the year 2015. All of my videos from the year 2015, all of that information is coming back up. And for the most part, what I was talking about in 2015, I went back and kind of looked. I talked a lot about Queen Elizabeth, the Pope, and Obama, and all of them possibly dying in that year because there was a bunch synced up to Pope Francis's visit to the United States. And I talked a lot about the number 91 and how it was synced up to elimination and Queen Elizabeth. And now Queen Elizabeth is 91 years old this year, so something interesting to think about. But I also talked about Lupercalia a whole lot, which is the celebration and sacrifice of the wolf, a celebration of the she-wolf who suckled Romulus and Remus. And they're the founders of Rome and whatnot. And I talked about how that was synced up to the movie Teen Wolf and the Civil War theme, just all kinds of stuff with the Civil War type theming, the race war stuff that was going on in the media at the time, even the death of Freddie Gray, and, Michael Brown was a little bit before that, but it was still kind of interrelated. And I also talked about how it was synced up to the Nebraska Cornhuskers, who play in Lincoln, Nebraska, connected to the Civil War type stuff. And Moses freed the slaves, Lincoln freed the slaves. The Nebraska Cornhuskers play in the Sea of Red. Moses parted the Red Sea. A whole bunch of stuff going on with it. Another big topic I talked about was Michael Jordan and how he's connected to Philadelphia and earthquakes in the movie Space Jam. I even predicted the Golden State Warriors to win that year, all because of Space Jam. And on Valentine's Day, the best player on UCLA was Kevon Looney. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but that's what his name looks like, Looney, like Looney Tunes, And then the next year, he even started playing for the Golden State Warriors and whatever else. But you had Denzel Valentine hit the game winner on Valentine's Day. And Lupercalia falls, it's on February 13th to the 15th, and Valentine's Day is the middle day, right? So, I also talked more about Philadelphia and earthquakes and bridge symbolism, possibly the Ben Franklin Bridge collapsing, and the Philadelphia experiment, this time travel experiment, and how it connected to Kansas, and, all kinds of stuff with that as well. Kansas was the 34th state. They were the last state to join the Union before the Civil War. I believe they joined 43 days before Abraham Lincoln became the president on 3-4 or 4/3. Civil War equals 43. Abraham Lincoln died exactly 4 years, 3 days after the Civil War began. Born on the 43rd day of the year. You know, Civil War came to an end on 5/9. And if you write out 59, it equals 43. Or if you write out 43, it equals 59. Another thing I talked about was, a big thing I talked about was Pope Francis's visit to the United States on 9/23. He came to America on his 923rd day as Pope, and he went to the White House at 9:23 in the morning on September 23rd, 9/23. And it was super synced up to the Philadelphia train wreck that happened at 9:23 p.m. And then that summer we got the movie Trainwreck with LeBron James. LeBron James and Jewish Gematria equals 923. That film begins with Amy Schumer's character 9 years old. The rest of the movie takes place 23 years later. And a big thing with Pope Francis was that he went to Philadelphia. That's where he finished his trip to the United States. And of course, he even gave a speech on Abraham Lincoln's Gettysburg Address lectern, right, reminding us of the Civil War. Abraham Lincoln was murdered with a gun called the Philadelphia Derringer. All kinds of stuff, you know. Pope Francis connected to Philadelphia. I even talked about the stuff with Back to the Future and the train destroying the time machine. So, and also in the mix of this, I mentioned a whole lot of stuff about the Mormons. And that's what I'm going to talk about in this video. So, like I said, this video is not for someone new. So, I talked a whole lot about the Mormons because the day that Pope Francis arrived in the United States was on September 22nd, 9/22. And that is the day that Joseph Smith, the founder of the Mormons or whatever, that's the day that he was allowed to take the golden plates or whatever from the angel Moroni. Told him he could take the golden plates on that day. The day that Pope Francis arrived in the United States was exactly 188 years after Joseph Smith took the plates. And Latter-day Saints equal 188. Salt Lake City, Utah equals 188. Bavarian Illuminati equals 188. And 9/22 is also the day that the French Republic was established, right? And think about the Bavarian Illuminati in connection to France. And then think about France in the connection to the United States. And the United States was absolutely founded on Freemason principles, all coded by the system. You'll learn about that in my How to Gematria video. It's all about 74. That's why our nation's independence is 74. Independence Day equals 74. But 2015 was also the 239th year of the United States. And, you know, think about 9/23 too. It's 23/9. That's the day Pope Francis went to the White House. Supposedly the area of Washington, D.C. was originally owned by a guy named Francis Pope, right? And then Pope Francis visits the White House and all that. But 239 is the 52nd prime number. And Joseph Smith, I'll just show you in Gematria here. Joseph Smith in Gematria equals 52. If I can get to it here. So Joseph Smith equals 52, right? Latter-day Saint equals 52. And remember, there's 239 chapters in the Book of Mormon. 239 is the 52nd prime, and all this happened, you know, it was on the anniversary of the Pope Francis going to America or whatever, and the word Pope even equals 52 in Gematria. And it was super important to Philadelphia, right? And Pope Francis's visit to Philadelphia, when we got the final blood moon of the Tetrad later that night when he left. And now, tonight, I guess, our January 31st, we're getting the super blue blood moon or whatever. This is the first blood moon since that last blood moon of the Tetrad and whatnot. And the 239th year of the United States was also Philadelphia's 333rd anniversary of being founded. And Philadelphia Eagles in Jewish Gematria equals 333. And now they're the Super Bowl, right? Super Bowl 52, that's in Minnesota. that equals 52. There's a whole lot of other interesting things going on with it. Queen Elizabeth equals 150, just like Philadelphia Eagles equals 150. And Queen Elizabeth's birthday, if you go from her birthday, 4/21, there's 2015, to 9/22, 2015. It's 5 months and 2 days. And remember, in 2015, we also got the birth of Princess Charlotte on May 2nd, 5/2, which is the 122nd day of the year. And Pope Francis in Gematria equals 122. You know, all kinds of stuff with Philadelphia is synced up to 122. Liberty Bell, 122. Anyway, 421 is important also because if you read about the Book of Mormon, you find out that it's based off of prophets that lived in America from the year 2200 BC to the year 421 AD, right? And Rome was supposedly founded on 421. So, you know, Queen Elizabeth born on 421, Rome supposedly founded on 421. There's just something special to that 421 that I don't fully see yet, you know. Prince even died on 421 on the night of a full moon. Yeah, so there's definitely something that's important to 421. I've even talked about how it's connected to Valentine's even because, you know, it even kind of, if you do it the way they would do it in England, it looks a lot like the same as Valentine's Day, and they're even 67 days apart. And Valentine's equals 67 with the V exception. Of course, Valentine's falls during Lupercalia, right? And so moral of the story, so it's just so weird because last night I was just watching videos or whatever, and I got off work or whatever, and I don't know, I saw this video that Zach posted about the Mormons. These Mormons showed up at his house, and then he just did a little Gematria video about Mormons, and it just stuck out to me because I was like, that's something that I was talking about in 2015, and that's what I've been sharing a lot of on this channel. And it made me go back and look at some of my videos, and I was listening to this video where I talked about the Book of Mormon having 239 chapters. You know, also 922, I talked about in this video, 922 is this on the Gregorian calendar is the same as 99 on the Julian calendar. And 99 last year, or 2015, was the day that Queen Elizabeth surpassed, whatever, I can't remember the guy's name. She surpassed one of the kings for longest reigning British monarch. I think it was King George or whatever, the Revolutionary War guy, but I could be wrong. But she surpassed him on 9/9, right? So it even has a connection to 922. And there was something to do with he reigned for like 9,220 days or something like that. I can't quite remember it, but it was something connected to that. But I went back and watched this video, and literally right in the video, when I start talking about wolves and Lupercalia, I get this notification that pops up that says wolf in front yard. And I'm like, what are the odds of that, you know? Like, I'm listening to a video, and right when I start talking about Lupercalia and wolves, I get a notification that's talking about a wolf in someone's front yard. And it is, like, it was all about a security camera here. There's someone's dog that went outside of his house or something, and it was on security camera, and he said, is it a wolf or not, basically. And I'll explain more about that in a little bit, because some other stuff happened. But, you know, Lupercalia, the word wolf in Gematria equals 52 in reverse. Also 56 in the frontwards way, just like Pope in reverse, right? So wolf, Pope. And also I thought it was interesting that this Mormon story comes up on the same day we got the big news about the Cleveland Indians getting rid of their Chief Wahoo logo, right? What's connected to the Indians, or, the Native Americans. And the Mormons play a big role in regards to the Native Americans. If you look up what Mormons believe or what Joseph Smith taught, it was that the Native Americans, so way back in the day, the Israelites came to America, right? And they eventually broke into two groups, the Nephites and the Lamanites, if I'm pronouncing that right. And basically the Lamanites were the darker skinned ones, and they fell away from Jesus, and they ended up killing off all the Nephites, and that's where the Native American people came from, right? So the Mormons have a huge connection to the Native American stuff. And I even talked about how that's how I thought the Indians were going to be in the World Series in 2016. Because a bunch of stuff was happening in my own life. It was synced up to the area that I live. Even Colin Kaepernick, the first time that he knelt in a game was against the Green Bay Packers in the preseason. And it was the Packers player who had the most yards was Geronimo Allison, right? And he even played for Iowa Western Community College, which is in Council Bluffs, Iowa, that was formerly Canesville. And when you look it up, it even says that it was historically, we'll type it was historically the start of the Mormon Trail. It was the historic starting point of the Mormon Trail. And it truly is. Well, I don't understand how it says that in here. I don't get what it means by that, because it really started in that town of Nauvoo, Illinois. And this was like kind of like the halfway point, and they stopped here in Council Bluffs because of the bad winter or whatever, and then they ended up getting they stopped in Winter Quarters or whatever, and that is the same spot that the Mormon Bridge is from Iowa to Omaha, basically, North Omaha. So, been talking about all these bridge symbolism, and, the Mormons are even connected to that bridge really close to where I live. But the reason that the Mormons came to Council Bluffs, Iowa, which was called Canesville at the time, was because of the Omaha people. Their chief was Big Elk, and he signed an illegal treaty that brought the Mormons to Council Bluffs, and he thought they would bring protection from the Sioux. And the town that I live in, if you look it up, it killed the last keeper of the sacred pole of the Omaha Indians, Chief Yellow Smoke. And last year we got the stuff about Prince's Yellow Cloud guitar and a bunch of other stuff. Yellow Smoke, Yellow Cloud. And basically, they were all going to come and kill this whole town back in the day. And if you read the article, the old article, it talks about how the Freemasons went outside in their Freemasonic outfits, and they did Masonic hand gestures and whatnot. And the Omaha people believed them that the people who killed Yellow Smoke had fled the town, and they didn't live in the town. So the Omaha people believed the Freemasons, and they didn't kill the whole town, and that's how this town survived or whatever, And Yellow Smoke equals 68, and that happened in the year 1868 or whatever. And it just goes to show how deep Freemasonry really stems back to, Stems back to the Native Americans even. The Native Americans supposedly knew Masonic stuff. And then when you think about it, the Mormons believe that the Native Americans are actually the Lamanites, the people who fell away from Jesus, and they were brought to Omaha or Council Bluffs because of an illegal treaty through a group of Native Americans or whatever. And, Omaha equals 38, and Joseph Smith died at the age of 38, and even the guy who Canesville was named after, I think his name was Thomas L. Canesville or something like that. Whatever his name was, it equaled 38 in Gematria. The Mormons even have the 3 witnesses and the 8 witnesses, if you look it up. So, just wanted to point out there's a Native American theme connected to Mormon stuff, and Mormons have a bunch of 52 connections. We're going into Super Bowl 52. Stuff I've been talking about, everything seemingly is connected to Super Bowl 52 this year. And also in 2015, in regards to the wolf symbolism, right? Lupercalia and whatnot. In that NBA All-Star game, we had Zach Lavine, who was 19 years old and he was a Minnesota Timberwolf. He won the slam dunk contest. And then the very next day, Andrew Wiggins, who was 19 and a Minnesota Timberwolf, a teen wolf, he won the Rising Star Challenge MVP, right? And that NBA All-Star Week began on February 13th and it ended on February 15th, the days of Lupercalia. That's why we got the Teen Wolves, performing well at the NBA All-Star Week. And later in 2015, we got the death of Daryl Dawkins that's connected to Philadelphia. We got the death of Moses Malone that was connected to Philadelphia. Daryl Dawkins was the first player out of high school to play in the NBA, and Moses Malone was the first player out of high school to play in the ABA. And then just think about Kevin Garnett, who was the original Teen Wolf, right? Kevin Garnett, out of high school to the Minnesota Timberwolves. He was a Teen Wolf. I also talked about, Kobe Bryant's final game was even super synced up to the death of Moses Malone and whatever else. The Lakers originally from Minnesota. Kobe's also out of high school. And so hopefully you get the point of that. Lupercalia was synced up to that. The reason the Nebraska Cornhuskers are synced up to that is because if you go watch the movie Teen Wolf, there's Nebraska Cornhusker stuff all throughout the background of that movie. And the movie's not set in Nebraska. It wasn't filmed in Nebraska. There's palm trees in the background. There's a license plate that says Nebraska on it. So they put Nebraska stuff in there. He even joins the school play where he's the Confederate Army guy, right? The Civil War theming. Thinking about Nebraska Cornhuskers. And the mascot in that movie is called the Beavers. And if you read about it, it says that it was based off of the Oregon State Beavers mascot. And then the Nebraska Cornhuskers got Mike Riley as their football coach. Mike Riley was the former Oregon State Beaver football coach, right? And you just can't make it up. So it was all about Teen Wolf that year. A ton more, I can't even remember it all, but I know it was super synced up to that. And then I talked about Valentine's Day a lot. Valentine's Day equals 52. And I talked a whole bunch about Michael Jordan at Revelation in Philadelphia. Valentine's 121 Revelation. But Michael Jordan wore number 45 when he came back from retirement. Valentine's on the 45th day of the year. He even wore number 12 one time, and it was on Valentine's Day because someone supposedly stole his jersey. That's the only time he ever wore anything, other than number 23. And when he wore number 45, he wore it for 22 games, and then he switched back to number 23 on the 23rd game back from retirement. So anyway, when I went back, I couldn't remember what number Jordan wore on Valentine's Day, and I went back and looked it up, and I clicked on this article, and the video that started playing was an ad, and the guy started talking about wolves. He said something about the wolf, and I was like, what in the world? I haven't even posted this post yet, or anything. So earlier I'm watching this Mormon video, and this thing pops up about wolves. And then, I click on this article, and it brings up this deal about wolves. And it was called, it's some ad about security systems, right? Called The Fixer with Jonathan Banks, right? Even shady characters like the wolf. And I don't know what it all means, but just think about it. This is about security. And then the other thing I got was about the security camera catching the wolf. So I don't understand what the purpose is, but interesting. His name's Jonathan Banks, right? I've talked a lot about U.S. Bank Stadium, how the Super Bowl's connected to the stock market crash and whatnot. Jonathan Banks equals 40. The Fixer equals 40. Even the ad coded by the numbers. This security video is from Petro, who's a rapper in Omaha. I only sort of know this guy. I don't know why it would pop up with him. You know what I mean? But his real name's Ryan Porter. That equals 150. Wolf Festival equals 150. Philadelphia Eagles equal 150. Queen Elizabeth equals 150. The Ben Franklin Bridge was built in honor of the 150th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. I then went on to point out Jordan's Olympic number was even number 9. And then he, was famous for wearing 23, 9 and 23. In the movie Space Jam, 9 Tunes get hurt. And then they bring in number 22, Bill Murray, right? The 922 reference, like the day Pope Francis came to the United States. The day that synced up to the Bavarian Illuminati, that synced up to the Mormons. There's something really special about it. And I said that Lupercalia would be a fitting day for an earthquake. Lupercalia 44, earthquake 44. Lupercalia is on the 44th day of the year. So just interesting, Moving on here. So randomly, the Mormon stuff gets brought back up. And then some synchronicity in regarding Lupercalia comes up. So I document it, talking about what was going on in 2015. And then today, I was just sitting here on the computer in the chair or whatever, and I heard my girlfriend say to me, that commercial is a weird commercial, or weirdest commercial ever. And I looked up and I watched the commercial, and it was this Budweiser commercial about making cans of Budweiser, or making water. Budweiser makes water now, I guess. And so I thought, interesting. And the reason I thought it was interesting was because there was a girl in the background singing Stand By Me. And if you followed my channel, I'll leave a link to the playlist, but Stand By Me was super important to what I was talking about. A whole bunch of stuff. It is even synced up to water because of River Phoenix, right? River. And I watched this movie called The Phoenix Forgotten or something, and a whole bunch of stuff. I can't remember it all off the top of my head, but it was synced up to water. I was talking about how there's something to do with water. Then we got the Houston floods. Then we got the Astros winning the World Series that was all synced up to the water theme and the number 52. Hurricane equals 52. Flood equals 52. Hurricane Harvey even dissipated 52 days before the World Series began. On 9-2, Astros equal 92. But anyway, I looked up what it was, and there was an article talking about Budweiser's 2018 Super Bowl ad that will focus on water. And I was like, interesting. Water, Timberlake, Minnesota, the land of 10,000 lakes. I mean, I just talked about a whole bunch of stuff. Talked about 10 Mile Lake. When I was graduated high school, we went to 10 Mile Lake and Hackensack, Minnesota, I believe it was, and just a bunch of other stuff that's connected to Hackensack, New Jersey. So just interesting, a water thing. The girl singing Stand By Me. Stand By Me is super connected to the train bridge symbolism. We got the train that wrecked in Washington this year. What was it? Outside of DuPont, Washington. DuPont means from the bridge. Somebody pointed out in my comments that the word pontiff, like Pope, another word for Pope, even means bridge builder. Pope Francis, named after St. Francis of Assisi, who's also the guy who San Francisco is named after. And think about the Golden Gate Bridge there. And, the Jews believe that the Messiah will return through the Golden Gate. So, once again, it had me reminded, though, because all of the Stand By Me stuff I was talking about was connected to the Sutherland Springs church shooting, right? I had talked about how Kiefer Sutherland was missing and how Will Wheaton was missing, and then Kiefer Sutherland, whatever. We got the Sutherland Springs church shooting, and then Will Wheaton was on Fox News saying that, didn't matter that people prayed because they still died or whatever. And then he was getting some flack for that or whatever, right? And then he was on the Big Bang Theory for the first time in 1.5 seasons, just right after that as well. But I remember Zach had this video from the Awake Time with Jerry where he had the theory on, they're trying to steal the water and whatnot. And he even talked about Sutherland Springs or whatever. Think about springs and water. So I just thought that was interesting, how it synced up to the Stand By Me stuff. And this girl singing Stand By Me in the Budweiser commercial, that they're talking a lot about water. And I'm not even sure if I made a video on this, but there was an article in November, too, about how they were making fun of Donald Trump for taking a drink of water or whatever. I don't know if you remember that. Donald Trump. And, he was drinking a Fiji that equals 25. Trump equals 25. And they were talking about how he made fun of Marco Rubio drinking water on 2/12 of 2013. And he was drinking a Poland spring water that equals 212, and he did it on 2/12. And the CNN video was even 2/12 long about Donald Trump. But another big story on that same day of Donald Trump drinking the water was the Keystone Pipeline leaking 210,000 gallons of oil in South Dakota. And if you remember, the Keystone Pipeline stuff, the Native American stuff, it was all about Standing Rock, and the big deal was water is life, right? Because the oil was going to get in the water supply and whatever. Water is life. So Donald Trump drinking this water on the same day we get the story about the Keystone Pipeline leaking or whatever. And Keystone's important to Philadelphia and Pennsylvania, right? Because it's also the Keystone State, right? And I also pointed out Native American equals 135, South Dakota equals 135. It's supposed to be the Key of David equals 135. Kobe Bryant equals 135. Philadelphia founded on a date numerology of 135. Fly Eagles fly equals 135. It's a super important number. They even had a story about Tom Brady's mom being from Brommersville, Minnesota, and they said it's about 135 miles away from U.S. Bank Stadium, And Brommersville, Minnesota equals 118 and 98, just like Tom Brady, just like Patriots, So, how ridiculous. But I guess the moral of the story with this water stuff, it connects back to the Mormons. And, even with the Native American theme that's connected to the Mormons. But the other night when I was researching a little bit more about Mormons, I found out that Joseph Smith taught that Noah is also the angel Gabriel. Noah, right? Think about Noah, the flood, right? And Genesis 8:3 is where it tells of the flood lasts 150 days. Well, football equals 83. Isn't Tom Brady's birthday's even on 8/3? But 150 days, World Series equals 150, Philadelphia Eagles equal 150. And the angel Gabriel is just super interesting. I'll leave the link to my video in the description. But, I've been talking about the angel Gabriel all year as well. And it's interesting because angel Gabriel in Gematria equals 231, just like national anthem. That's super important. The flag sewn in Philadelphia at 239 Arch Street, supposedly, by Betsy Ross and whatever. Donald Trump, the big story of Donald Trump calling out the people kneeling was on 9/23, but he actually did it on 9/22, right? Once again, synced up to Pope Francis's visit and the 9/23 stuff. Oh yeah, also I wanted to show you one other one. Gabriel, 135, right? Think about that in regards to the Key of David and whatnot. The Mormons believe that Noah, the flood guy, was also Gabriel. So, just interesting to me. Also, in regards to Mormons and whatnot, Donald Trump all about America, right? Make America great again, whatever else. And Budweiser changed their logo to America. Remember, they changed it on 5/23. Donald Trump and Satanic Gematria equals 5/23. And they changed it that way until the elections, right? So Donald Trump wins the election. Budweiser changes their logo to America. That equals, on the day that equals the same as Donald Trump and whatnot. Budweiser also equals 421 in Satanic. So, synced up to the Mormon stuff yet again. Queen Elizabeth, the Mormons, Rome being founded on 421. Thinking about the super moon, the super blood moon thing that's happening tonight. Think about wolves in regards to howling at the moon and whatnot. Lupercalia equals 44, also 98, like Patriots and Tom Brady. So one last thing I looked up, I saw that the girl who was singing Stand By Me in that commercial is Skylar Grey, which gray really sticks out as well, because in 2015 there was lots of gray symbolism going on. 50 Shades of Gray, right? America equals 50, adds whatever, 50 states, adds just all kinds of stuff. Adds, we had 50 Shades of Gray. The Confederates and the Confederate Army wore different shades of gray. Then we had Dr. McDreamy get killed off on Grey's Anatomy. Then later that year, we got the death of the girl he falls in love with on Can't Buy Me Love. She died later on that year. Then we got the Freddie Gray stuff, where he got injured on the day the Civil War began, and then he died on the day that the Civil War came to an end. There was lots of gray symbolism going on. Even Freddie Gray was even synced up to the movie called Freddy's Dead and also Drop Dead Fred. And in the movie Freddy's Dead, the first person to ever die in a Freddy Krueger movie was named Tina Gray. So just lots of gray stuff. And so anyway, this girl, Skylar Grey, who was singing Stand By Me on that commercial, I looked her up and she was on WrestleMania 31 that I just talked about the other night in regards to the Golden Gate Bridge and Ronda Rousey, the Terminator scene, Terminator Genesis, was the bus crash on the Golden Gate Bridge. It was the theme song called Rise, too. So I don't know, just interesting. She's even 31 years old now. I saw that she was on WrestleMania a few other times as well, but it's still interesting that the last time she was WrestleMania 31. I'll leave a link to the Rowdy Piper video that I just made. Ronda Rousey, Rowdy Piper. Her initials are even HH, which stuck out, HH, the 88. It's the 88th year of the stock market crash. Trump equals 88. Colin Kaepernick equals 88. Star Spangled Banner equals 88. Herbert Hoover, the president during the stock market crash. HH, U.S. Bank Stadium equals 88, where the Super Bowl's played. Lots of stuff. So anyway, I made another blog post tonight, too, about the film Oblivion that talks about 2017 being the final Super Bowl ever being played or whatever, right? And look at the cover. It even has the collapsing bridge or whatever. And I'll probably just make a separate video on this because I don't think it has any connections really to what I'm talking about. But just know that it's connected to, look at that. The bridge symbolism. This is the 2017 season of the NFL. But, moral of the story, I made this post about this movie, and I went to ESPN.com just to check out and see if there's another story that I could blog about, and this is the top headline on ESPN.com. Alex Smith traded to the Redskins. If you go back in 2015, I have 10 videos where I talk about Alex Smith and the Chiefs and the connections to the Philadelphia Eagles and how it's connected to the Mormons because he went to the college of Utah that's in Salt Lake City I don't know if he's a Mormon. You can't find that anywhere, so he's probably not a Mormon. But he went to a college that is in the area where there's lots of Mormons, you know. And Andy Reid, the coach of the Chiefs, and the former coach of the Eagles, whatever, Andy Reid is a Mormon. He went to BYU even, right? So there's a big Mormon thing. And then think about it. The Chiefs to the Redskins, the Native Americans, right, that are connected to the Mormons. Just crazy. You know, he's traded 98 days before his birthday. Kansas City Chiefs equal 98. It's the 98th season of the NFL. All of the 98s in regards to the New England Patriots. Native Americans also equals 98, you know? And also his name is super fitting for Mormon. Alexander Douglas Smith equals 88. Remember, he got hurt or whatever, and then Colin Kaepernick replaced him. And then that's why he went to the Chiefs even. Colin Kaepernick, the guy, the big important thing about kneeling and not standing up, stand by me. You know, just think about all this stuff. Standing Rock, right? I mean, it's just so obvious to me, but Colin Kaepernick equals 88, just like Alex Smith is full name, just like the Star Spangled Banner, just like Trump, just like Neil. You know, Herbert Hoover even signed into Congress the national anthem being the Star Spangled Banner. But the word Mormon equals 88. Joseph Smith died 88 days before the anniversary of him being able to take the plates. Brigham Young, also known as the modern Moses, right? If you look him up, you'll find out he is known as a modern Moses, because he brought the Mormons from this town, Nauvoo, to Utah. Nauvoo equals 88. The 49ers play in Levi Stadium. Moses was in the tribe of Levi. The Chiefs play in the Sea of Red. Moses parted the Red Sea. The Redskins, you know. Kansas City is where the only president to die age 88 was from. Harry S. Truman, he died in Kansas City. Trump equals 88. I don't know if they're just like making these media stories because of my old videos or something. Or if I was just literally that on point back in 2015 and somehow it's just connected to this year. It almost seems like every time I'm talking about something, it's connected to what I was talking about in 2015. I mean, tons of media stories I'm seeing. It doesn't even matter what it is. I look into it. I'm like, dude, I was talking about that in 2015. So I don't know. It makes me wonder. So, one last thing. This is the Mormon Bridge in Omaha here, where it connects, you know, right off I-29, which is interesting, football 29 and whatnot. But it connects, you know, Iowa to Nebraska, basically. It takes you into North Omaha. But I noticed that it says it was opened in 1952. And so, right, once again, connected to the Super Bowl, whatever else, number 52. And the Church of Latter-day Saints was the last to pay the toll for it on April 21st, 1979, right? April 21st, the 421 number. So, who knows? Maybe all the bridge symbolism is connected to this bridge. It is pretty old and crappy, you know, like, I don't know. Possibly this bridge is going to collapse or something. You know, I don't know. I'm just trying to figure it all out, but the Mormon Bridge is important, so. And I was also thinking about the South Park stuff, because they do a bunch of stuff about the Mormons. Even if their movie Orgasmo, it begins where they're the Mormon missionaries or whatever. And they were connected to the Paris attacks as well, and they have the Broadway play, you know, the Book of Mormon. And there's an episode of South Park where they're trying to do the starter company and they change their name to the Washington Redskins. And then they get the support of ISIS, and then Kyle wants to quit the company or whatever. And just before the Paris attacks, remember South Park had the kids dressed like ISIS or whatever. And then we got the Paris ISIS attack, and Paris France equals 56, ISIS equals 56. Much, much more, you know. Everyone has AIDS, right? They did the terrorist attack on Team America, and then it skips over to New York, and he's singing "Everyone Has AIDS," and then Charlie Sheen comes out, says he has HIV or whatever. Ton of stuff. 2.5 men equals 56. If you literally take men, the word, and take whatever, let's see, what's men? I'll tell you what it is. Men equals 14, so 2.5 of them. 14 divided by 2.5 is 5.6. You know, the word Charlie equals 56. All kinds of other stuff with it, you know. He said he had Tiger's blood, right? Then we got the Missouri Tigers hunger strike right around that same time. The Freddie Gray stuff was super synced up to Taylor Swift and Beyonce and Kanye West calling him out or whatever. And Kanye equals 56 and Kim Kardashian equals 56 and all kinds of stuff. Taylor Swift had bad blood. Such a joke. But you just really got to pay attention. But I'm going to end the video there. It's really long. Hopefully you understand the purpose. I'm just telling you that things I'm talking about 2015, I don't know what it is that keeps syncing up. There's lots of interesting things going on, and it just keeps happening over and over to me every day. I can't even focus on things because I check on a media story and it's connected to what I was talking about in 2015. So, Mormon stuff, super important. Don't fully understand the purpose of it other than how it's connected to Pope Francis's visit, that's connected to the Philadelphia Eagles who are in the Super Bowl. So, have a good one. Peace.